Good evening. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Frank Pereira. A little late today, but we were watching the amazing beating retreat ceremony at Raisina Hill, of course. We saw the President, Vice President and the Prime Minister all present there with the bands from all the armed forces coming out and putting on a splendid display. Let's now begin with the headlines. President Ramnath Kovind backs simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and state assemblies, calls for a sustained debate by all political parties on the subject in his address to the joint sitting of the two houses of parliament. Calling 2018 year of opportunities for a new India, President highlights achievements of the Narendra Modi government, reiterates commitment to strengthen social justice and to usher ease of living for the common man. Economic survey sees India poised to regain fastest growing economy tag, estimates growth rate at 7% to 7.5% in the fiscal year 2019, cautions policy vigilance on oil prices, need to increase agriculture productivity. And Prime Minister Modi appeals to opposition parties to pass Triple Talaq Bill in the Rajya Sabha, assures nation that upcoming budget will fulfill aspirations of all, including farmers, Dalits, tribal communities and labourers. Well, concerned about frequent elections in one part of the country or another, President Ramnath Kovind, in his first address to the joint session of Parliament, has stressed for a need to uphold or to hold, just one election for Lok Sabha and state assemblies. He said that frequent polls adversely impacts the speed of development.
बार बार चुनाव होने से मानव संसाधन पर बोझ तो पड़ता ही है, आचार संहिता लागू होने से देश की विकास प्रक्रिया भी बाधित होती है। इसलिए एक साथ चुनाव कराने के विषय पर चर्चा और संवाद बढ़ना चाहिए तथा सभी राजनीतिक दलों के बीच सहमति बनाई जानी चाहिए।
Well, President Kovind lauded the government's fiscal policies over the last 3 years that brought impressive gains for the country despite global economic slowdown.
पिछले 3.5 वर्षों में मुद्रास्फीति की दर, करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट और फिस्कल डेफिसिट औसतन कम हुए हैं। वर्ष 2017 में विदेशी मुद्रा भंडार 410 बिलियन अमेरिकी डॉलर के स्तर से ऊपर चला गया। मेरी सरकार की प्रभावी नीतियों के कारण प्रत्यक्ष विदेशी निवेश भी पिछले 3 वर्षों के दौरान 36 बिलियन अमेरिकी डॉलर से बढ़कर 60 बिलियन अमेरिकी डॉलर तक पहुंच गया है।
While addressing the Parliament today, President Ramnath Kovind gave special reference to the challenges of the farming sector. Elaborating the government's various steps, he said that the subsequent increase in the production of cereals, fruits and vegetables is a result of government policies and the hard work of the farmers.
किसानों की मुश्किलों का समाधान करना और उनके जीवन को ऊपर उठाना मेरी सरकार की उच्च प्राथमिकता है। मेरी सरकार की योजनाएं न केवल किसानों की चिंता कम कर रही हैं, बल्कि खेती पर होने वाले उनके खर्च को भी घटा रही हैं। सरकार की नीतियों और किसानों की कड़ी मेहनत का ही परिणाम है कि देश में 275 मिलियन टन से ज़्यादा खाद्यान्न और लगभग 300 मिलियन टन फलों सब्जियों का रिकॉर्ड उत्पादन हुआ है। मेरी सरकार किसानों की आय को 2022 तक दोगुना करने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। किसानों को उनकी पैदावार की उचित कीमत मिल सके, इसके लिए देश की कृषि मंडियों को ऑनलाइन जोड़ने का कार्य जारी है। दशकों से लंबित 99 सिंचाई परियोजनाओं को पूरा करने का काम भी प्रगति पर है। दलहन और तिलहन क्षेत्र के उत्पादन बोनस के माध्यम से भी सरकार किसानों के हितों की रक्षा कर रही है। दालों के लिए बनाई गई नई नीति की वजह से पिछले वर्ष की तुलना में दाल के उत्पादन में 38% से अधिक की बढ़ोतरी हुई है, जो एक रिकॉर्ड है।
Well, another big news of the day now, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley tabled the economic survey in Parliament on Monday. The Economic Survey 2018 has estimated that the Indian economy will grow by 7 to 7.5% in 2018-19. It pointed out that there has been a 50% increase in the number of indirect taxpayers and that demonetization has helped the share of financial savings rise.
Sounding bullish on growth, Economic Survey 2018 emphasized India's strong economic fundamentals to state that it is poised to regain the tag of world's fastest growing economy. Elaborating on the points that were working for the Indian economy, the survey said that a series of major reforms undertaken over the past year will allow GDP growth to reach 6.7% this fiscal and will rise to 7 to 7.5% in 2018-19. It also underlined the role of the newly introduced goods and services tax, the new Indian bankruptcy court, the implementation of the recapitalization package to strengthen the public sector banks, liberalization of FDI and the export uplift from the global recovery as contributing to the economic growth.
There is a robust and broad-based revival. Several indicators of activity. We've shown manufacturing growth, GVA growth, even investment, exports, net private transfers, credit, they've all started to pick up. The direction is very good. The level is still below potential, should keep that in mind. But in terms of directionally, the economy seems to be picking up.
The goods and services tax implementation has increased indirect taxpayer base by more than 50%, with 34 lakh businesses coming into the tax net. As on December 2017, there were 9.8 million unique GST registrants, more than the total indirect tax registrants under the old system, where many taxpayers were registered under several taxes. The new regime of indirect taxes has also fetched 9.7 lakh crore rupees to the exchequer.
GST revenues are growing at about 12% and the buoyancy is well above historical. So for the early experience of such a transformative change is already providing fairly buoyant revenues. So I think the promise going forward is very good.
Economic Survey 2018 also says demonetization to curb black money has given a boost to financial savings in aggregate household savings with a tilt towards market instruments. It led to 2.8 lakh crore rupees less cash and 3.8 lakh crore less high denomination notes in the Indian economy. The survey highlighted that while services sector is expected to grow at 8.3% in 2018, industrial growth will be at 4.4% and agriculture sector will grow at 2.1%. With strong macroeconomic indicators, the Economic Survey has set the tone for a bold and reform-oriented budget to be presented on February 1st. The multilateral agencies like the World Bank and IMF have already exuded confidence in India's economic potential. The Economic Survey has also pointed out that India can be rated as among the best performing economies in the world, with average growth rate in last 3 years hovering around 4 percentage points, which is higher than global growth rate and nearly 3 percentage points higher than emerging and developing economies. Reporting from Delhi, with camera person Vijay Singh, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the Economic Survey has recommended that the budget should be pragmatic and not aim for extreme fiscal targets. It has also signaled that there are pressures that have to be addressed, such as oil prices in a pre-election year. Here's more.
Among the obstacles to growth, the Economic Survey finds raising investment more significant than raising saving. It also points out that direct tax collections by states are significantly lower than those by counterparts in other federal countries.
We see now that there is a robust and broad-based revival. Several indicators of activity. We've shown manufacturing growth, GVA growth, even investment, exports, net private transfers, credit, they've all started to pick up. The direction is very good. The level is still below potential, should keep that in mind. But in terms of directionally, the economy seems to be picking up quite nicely, quite robustly, and that's what's happening now.
Another key concern, according to the Economic Survey, is the constant surge in the oil prices. In this regard, it says the first 3 quarters of 2017-18 oil prices have been 16% greater in dollar terms than in the previous year. In this regard, it calls for vigilance in the coming year if high oil prices persist or stock prices correct sharply.
If oil prices remain at current levels, I think there will be challenges. We know a rule of thumb, every $10 increase in the price of oil, GDP growth comes down by about 0.2 to 0.3%. The current account deficit will deteriorate by about, again, 0.4 percentage points of GDP, $10 billion. Inflation will be higher also by about 0.2, 0.3%. So I think we need to watch oil prices very carefully.
The Economic Survey 2018 highlights agriculture, education and employment as the focus areas in the medium term. On agriculture, it says that raising farm productivity while strengthening agricultural resilience is a priority area. It pegs agriculture growth in financial year 2018 at 2.1%, while the industry growth for financial year 18 likely to be 4.4%.
I think that in some ways, my own view is that the government doesn't have to do anything new and radical, etc. Just, finishing what it has started already would be, I think, a very ambitious and a very fantastic agenda to complete. Supporting agriculture, because we know there are stresses in the agricultural sector, which are described in the economic survey. Stabilize the GST. I think that we need to stabilize GST because export refunds, compliance, revenue will still have to be achieve an equilibrium.
On the employment front, the survey says that finding good jobs for the young and the increasing workforce, especially for women, is a huge challenge. On education, it says the priority has to be to create an educated and healthy labour force.
One of the new things we say in this, which I don't think has been pointed out enough, is that we know that the sex ratio in India is highly skewed. If you go to Punjab, Haryana, you'll see it. But there is a different and maybe deeper phenomenon of son preference, which we call son meta preference. And you can get at that not by looking at the sex ratio at birth, but by looking at the sex ratio of the last child. Is the last child more male than female? And what you find is that in India, it's very striking. You look at the difference between the top two charts. That's the sex ratio. If it's the last child, skewed towards males. If it's not the last child, more females. So it's really quite striking. And that's not true of a country like Indonesia and many, many other countries.
According to the survey, policy recipes for the coming year will include a huge support to the agricultural sector, stabilizing GST, privatizing Air India, and creating an ecosystem for the new insolvency and bankruptcy process to resolve the bad loan problem in the sector.
The economic survey says that the government has given utmost priority to social infrastructure like education and health to ensure inclusive and sustainable growth. Even the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has contributed greatly in improvement of health indicators in rural India. However, child and maternal malnutrition continue to be the most challenging risk factors. Reporting from Delhi, with camera person Vijay Singh, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
The Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the budget will give a new energy to the economy, which is already surging ahead. He also hoped that the budget would live up to the expectations of the common man.
ये बजट देश की तेज गति से आगे बढ़ रही अर्थव्यवस्था को एक नई ऊर्जा देने वाला, देश के सामान्य से सामान्य मानव की आशा अपेक्षाओं को परिपूर्ण करने वाला बजट आएगा.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Bulletin, but do stay tuned for the big picture coming up on the other side of the short break.